Medalist, a seinen manga brimming with emotionally evocative art that weaves the story of 11-year-old Inori Yuitsuka and her journey into the figure skating world alongside her coach, Tsukasa Akurashi, a former national ice dancer. Outside the expressive panels, which often underscore the emotion in scenes, adding depth to characters and storylines, or other times, serving as comedic relief, what drew me to the manga from Jump and had it quickly skyrocket several slots up to my all-time faves was having front row seats to Inori's journey and the messaging around child autonomy. Autonomy is a state of independence and self-determination. Simply put, the ability for one to make their own choices and have control of their life. Through Inori's story, a spotlight is shone on the autonomy, or lack thereof, that children possess in society. We're first introduced to Inori through the lens of Tsukasa, a 26-year-old former ice dancer, as he encounters her at an ice rink, where he's been offered a coaching position by his former ice dancing partner, Hitomi. After a comedic confrontation and chase, Tsukasa learns about Inori's passion for skating when he opens up a skating book she carries around with her and sees Inori's worn out the pages, taking notes while studying the lessons. Inori's body language while explaining her actions and interest in skating exudes anxiety and insecurity. As she explains her mom's hesitance about her skating, her hands remain clasped firmly together, an anxious sweat dripping from her as she reasons through her actions. Her eyes are downcast, partially closed, hinting at a lack of confidence. Her brows drawn tight to her eyes, emphasizing her anxiety and hopelessness. I interpreted Inori clasping her hands together as a sign of insecurity, as she's using the stance to garner strength to compensate for a lack of confidence as she speaks. Her insecurity is also apparent through her words as she downplays her own passion for skating. Her hesitancy to firmly say she wants to skate and can skate by repeatedly using adverbs like maybe and bit, which serve to downplay the seriousness of her interests and the effort she so clearly put towards it. Maybe I can do it. I just want to skate a bit more. Her verbiage is also extremely mindful and reveals from early in the manga that Inori's taking care to not inconvenience or burden those around her. This idea of her being a burden is one that I'll be tapping back into later in the video. Throughout the scene, Inori is seeking out permission and justifying her actions. Revisiting autonomy, it's clear to see the lack of autonomy Inori possesses in these panels and the vast number of barriers that lie before her because she is a child. She has to seek out permission from her mother to visit the rink. When her mother didn't give it, she sought out alternative methods and resorted to trading in handfuls of slime for ice time. Yet again, however, with her unsavory dealings foiled, she's run into yet another barrier. Lack of autonomy afforded to children occurs for a multitude of reasons that I believe almost always can be linked back to society's inability to perceive children as their own person. Rather, society tends to perceive children as objects whose rights are afforded to them by their primary caretaker and/or the state. A symptom of the objectification of children is an inability to genuinely acknowledge their needs and desires. Upon learning about Inori's questionable dealings with the skating rink, Tsukasa internally asks himself, why is she doing this? It speaks volumes to his character that he instinctively seeks out to understand Inori and her motivations, rather than starting and ending at reprimand and punishment. Especially when drawing a contrast between Tsukasa's interactions with Inori and another adult who pops up later in the chapter and their interactions with Inori. FYI, the drag is Loadington. Even though Inori is a child, Tsukasa is engaging with her seriously and with intent. When Tsukasa hears Inori voice her desire to skate and sees the annotated notebook, he immediately locks in. He asks her repeatedly if she has expressed her desires to her mother and offers her advice about joining clubs. Inori's voice is heard by Tsukasa in their conversation. Inori's physical response to Tsukasa's genuine interest in skating speaks volumes. Her eyes widen and gain a sparkle. Her brows now drawn together in focus and determination rather than anxiety. We're watching in 4K as Tsukasa gradually instills Inori with the confidence to speak about her passions. Tsukasa listening and curating a space for Inori's voice to be heard is a step towards providing Inori with an environment to exercise autonomy. His candidness in the following panels regarding a timeline and how crucial it is for Inori to act quickly if she truly wants to skate further emphasizes the seriousness with which Tsukasa is engaging Inori and her feelings. Shifting to the next scene, when Inori comes home late from her run-in with Tsukasa, she's barely stepped foot over the threshold of her home when her mom barrages her with questions about her whereabouts and why she's coming home so late. Questions, mind you. She's not asking with any intent of getting answers based on how she continues to speak, leaving no room for Inori to answer before ending the conversation. Herein lies the problem with Inori's home environment that has aided in shaping her into this anxious bundle of insecurity. There is no space for her voice in her home. There's no room for Inori to voice her thoughts and feelings, a truth Inori is all too aware of. Her awareness of this fact, compounded with her low self-esteem and perception of herself as a burden, cause Inori to constantly shrink into herself and repress her thoughts and feelings. You see this manifest outwardly through Inori's body language as she apologizes to her mother, shrinking and hiding herself as she again clasps her hands tightly behind her back, hiding the paper Tsukasa gave her to show her mother, crumpling it away behind her back, along with her thoughts and whatever confidence she had to speak with her mother, her eyes again downcast, and her head bowed slightly towards the ground in defeat. When Inori goes to school in the following scene, we're exposed to another sphere of her life that is having a detrimental impact on her self-perception. At school, Inori is a lone wolf who struggles academically, and as a result, a student her peers have a low opinion of. During a break, Inori is once again digging for worms to trade in. Upon seeing her classmates make snide comments about how weird and gross Inori is. Inori curls into herself, a desperate expression staining her face as she says internally, "I'll get good at it and compete. I'm actually gonna jump off a cliff." The art is just so expressive. I'm actually going to jump off this cliff. Inori is so devastatingly self-aware. She knows her weaknesses and is well aware of others' perceptions of her, spurred by her weaknesses. As tears fall from her eyes with her hands covered in soil, you see Tsukasa's words running through Inori's mind. You can't afford to start much later. Inori truly just wants to do something she loves and use it to empower her to become a better version of herself. In this panel, you see the culmination of her fears and her desires weighing over her, and a realization that, with time running out, if something doesn't change, she might be forever stuck in this place. And so, she acts. It's evident Inori mustered up whatever strength she could scavenge and had a conversation with her mother that led us here, back to the ice rink. As Inori's mom engages with Tsukasa and Hitomi, it quickly becomes apparent Inori's mom bringing her here was a ploy to discourage Inori from pursuing skating.
Well, it could have been a scheme that Todd set up for him to come to you with the bush.
She's barely exchanged pleasantries with the coaches before she begins undermining Inori's wants and efforts and outright disparaging her with words like, she doesn't see how skating is possible for Inori. If that ain't bad enough, she recklessly airs out Inori's struggles in different facets of her life and how she's mocked by her peers for said struggles. Mind you, Inori's mom is openly and unabashedly disparaging her in front of two random people she don't know from Adam.
That Kim, that's a dirty, low-down monkey with a wig on.
With a parent like this, who needs enemies? No wonder my niece's confidence and self-esteem is shot to all hell. Throughout this interaction, it's glaringly obvious Inori's mother is not taking Inori seriously, and I'd argue at her constant insertion and comparison of Inori to Inori's older sister. She does not see Inori as her own person. She continuously projects the outcomes of one daughter onto the other and defaulting to placing limitations and inevitable eventualities on Inori, all because they were experienced by her eldest child. Inori is a whole other child with her own strengths and weaknesses. Her mom's inability to see Inori as her own person plays a huge role in stripping Inori of her autonomy, stunting Inori's personal development and growth in detrimental ways, shown through Inori's body language and low self-esteem. Inori's mother is not cultivating an environment for her that promotes nurturing, care, support, or development. Instead, she undermines Inori's autonomy at every turn, claiming Inori will never be good enough at skating, so trying is pointless. Something she can easily do because she is an adult, wielding and abusing the power she holds in her relationship with Inori, who, as a child, is powerless in comparison. To emphasize her stance that Inori should give up on her dreams, Inori's mother uses her hand to forcefully turn Inori's head and make her look at children skating on the ice, reiterating that Inori pales in comparison. Give me a second because my blood pressure is rising. In this moment, Inori's mom is again undermining Inori's autonomy, but in a much more violent way that viscerally highlights the power dynamics and imbalance between adults and children. Not only is Inori's mother verbally shutting down Inori's desires by physically forcing her body to move without consent, as if Inori were some puppet, it's a clear portrayal and reflection of how Inori's autonomy has been stripped in her home. Even more so as we gauge from Inori's tearful and hurt expression that she does not want to look. Inori's mother then proceeds to pin Inori's lack of potential in skating on Inori's inability to speak up. Her ability to do so unchallenged, again underscoring the power dynamics at play between parent and child. If only you'd spoken up. If only you'd said something sooner. Maybe there'd have been a different outcome. Knowing damn well, regardless, we would have wound up here, doing the exact same song and dance. So seamlessly, she shifts blame onto Inori, a child who might struggle forming an argument to such an accusation or contesting it at all, rather than looking inward and interrogating the role she as a parent played in Inori's hesitancy vocalizing her interests and desires. If only you'd cultivated an environment where your child could exist autonomously. If only you'd created a safe space for your child's voice to be heard, acknowledged, and taken seriously. If only you'd established a space for her to self-actualize and grow in ways she so desperately wants to. When she grabs the back of Inori's head and turns it, Tsukasa intervenes. Though he intervenes, I think it's important to note he doesn't directly call out Inori's mom's behavior, even though both he and Hitomi clearly don't agree with it. Instead, he skirts around her behavior, focusing on getting Inori on the ice to put an end to it. The inability to call her behavior out directly is indicative of how children are perceived as property in society. This objectification of children gives their caretakers and society at large the right to treat said property as they deem fit, with little or no ramifications for mistreatment or intervention from onlookers. Such little thought is given to the fact that children are one of the largest marginalized groups in the world. They are an extremely vulnerable population that is often mistreated and exploited by individuals and systems wielding so much more power than them. But children are their own person, not property. They have a right to exercise autonomy and seek out things for themselves without the undermining and oppression of adults, systems, and structures. Rather, society has a responsibility to support and ensure the all-around well-being and safety of children, including prevention of mistreatment and exploitation in their communities. Which is why Tsukasa intervening at this moment is so important and pivotal to Inori's growth. This simple action that cost him nothing quite literally changed the trajectory of Inori's life. By inserting himself and pushing for Inori to get on the ice so he can see for himself whether she's got it or not, Tsukasa is affirming Inori's desires. He proceeds to lace up Inori's skates and offers her encouraging words. In his interactions with her, Tsukasa doesn't demean or engage with her as though she's incapable of determining her own interests just because she's a child. Rather, he engages her seriously and candidly while being mindful that she is a child and needs support and encouragement to help instill her with confidence. Then Inori's blades hit the ice. Look at her. I said look at her. The way Inori comes alive when she touches the ice. She stands taller and looks so sure of herself. She's not shrunken into herself like in previous panels. Her eyes, once a whirlpool of despair and lifelessness, now open and youthful. A child who's found a place where they are comfortable and thriving. A child in her element. We truly love to see it. All her hard work and struggle is being witnessed as she glides across the ice. As her mom watches on, she asks herself out loud, but when did she learn to do that? It speaks volumes that her mom is completely oblivious of the time and energy Inori has devoted to skating. I understand she has her own responsibilities, but to have no awareness whatsoever about something your child is so obviously passionate about and consumed by, to the point she slips and runs under the table? And why? Because Inori's home environment is one that suffocates her voice, not amplifies it. After witnessing this display, Inori's mother still ain't budging. If life don't imitate art, because why am I sat here looking just like Tsukasa? She remains firm in her conviction that Inori won't be skating. I didn't think you were this good, but I don't see you being something starting at this age. I just don't want to have her ice skating. Look at her wording. Who is she centering? I. It's not about Inori and her wishes or what's best for her. It's about herself. Again, Inori's mother refuses to see Inori as her own person capable of making decisions for herself. And then Inori's mother really lets her slip show when she says, if she were more normal, maybe we could have tried. This wording, not me about to throw hands with paper. Not me about to throw hands with paper. With her words, Inori's mother is not only confirming that the experiences Inori faces at school with her peers and teacher are mirrored at home, but also affirming and solidifying Inori's belief that she is a burden to those around her because of her struggles and differences. How devastating. How utterly devastating for your mother to be the one to confirm these things and admit before an audience of strangers that she does not believe in you and that you're predestined for failure. Feeling her dream slipping through her fingers, Inori lays her heart on the line in a heartbreaking Hail Mary confession that she does not like herself. There's nothing to me. Inori doesn't see any value in herself. If anything, Inori perceives herself as a net negative to people around her because of her struggles. A devastatingly perceptive confession from someone so young. What might be most devastating of all is the stamp of approval her mother gave these perceptions of herself, as she describes Inori as burdensome. Through it all, skating has been Inori's saving grace, her guardian angel as she puts it. Skating is the only thing Inori has to affirm her worth. It's the only place where she can express herself and do something well that she enjoys. All the noise and demeaning fade to white noise on the ice because it's hers and something she knows she can do, hesitant as she is to admit it out loud. Tsukasa listens to Inori's confession and, seeing her drive and desperation, inserts himself once more to advocate and amplify a voice Inori's mother refuses to acknowledge. Tsukasa vocalizes a belief in Inori by offering to be her coach, his avid advocacy and unwavering support of Inori a source of strength for her. At Tsukasa's insistence, Inori's mom finally acquiesces and agrees to let Inori skate. Without Tsukasa's advocacy, do I think Inori's mom would have let Inori pursue skating, even on the heels of such a desperate and gut-wrenching plea? Well, no. Her words after Tsukasa's fired-up monologue are telling. If you think so, coach. While the panel serves as comic relief to an emotionally heavy chapter, I think the inclusion of her acknowledgement of Tsukasa's words and opinions and a lack of panel dedicated to a reaction or a direct response to Inori's plea shows Inori's mom hasn't learned anything or really acknowledged Inori's passions and right to autonomy. Regardless, through her own strength and Tsukasa's advocacy and support, by the end of the chapter, we are faced with a young child afforded a space to self-actualize and grow by their own terms. We see the positive impact and changes occurring in Inori already as we flip to the last page.